Hello YouTube and welcome back to World of Warships with Wadres for yet another tutorial video. And for this video we are going to be talking about ship consumables. These are the consumables that you see along the bottom end of the screen here. This includes your damage control party, defensive AA, surveillance radar, among others. Now, right now I am in the USS Seattle. I will probably pull out a few other ships over the course of this video to showcase some of the other ones, but I will detail them as I go into them. And of course, for this video, I have also re-enlisted the help of my clanmate, Hooly Chicken, who will be joining us now.
Sound resumed.
Okay, Hooly, you are back on audio. Okay. Now, the first thing that I am going to be showcasing here for the consumables is, in fact, the radar consumable that is available in-game. This will detect ships at this particular ship, it will detect at 9 kilometers, and it can have a nice little habit of illuminating those pesky little destroyers that everybody knows and loves. Hey, Hooly, I see you out there at 7.9 kilometers. How you doing? Alright, but this can definitely be a nice tool for lighting up targets that are otherwise just kind of keeping themselves hidden due to low detectability values, so on and so forth, and just giving you all kinds of harassment by keeping you detected, but maybe staying out of detection themselves. Now, I am going to have Hooly move in just a little bit closer because I know he's got some torpedoes there that he'd really love to use. And just going to have him drop some of them off. Do me a favor, though, and just make sure that they kind of stream on past my bow, if nothing else there, Hooly.
Oh, hello. Oh, I mean...
Now, again, there's that pesky little destroyer out there, and I know he's going to be closing in on me before too long. In fact, he's probably going to pop into my detection range before he even gets those torpedoes off, because I do know the Sims does have a good 7 kilometers on those torpedoes. But here's the thing. I can see him, but I can't see his torpedoes. But I do have another nice little tool for my use, and that is the hydroacoustic search consumable. And this will allow me to pick up ships and torpedoes at certain ranges. Now, his torpedoes may not exactly have the greatest detection range when hydro is down, but with hydro up, I pick those torpedoes up a good long way off, and that will give me the opportunity to potentially evade and outmaneuver to get away from the torpedoes and otherwise avoid taking damage. Now, Hooly, why don't you go ahead and pop your smoke here too? Now, there's a nice white smoke screen just popped up over there, and now let's assume that I didn't know Hooly was actually there, but maybe I was getting close to being detected. If I can close in on that smoke screen, however, with the hydroacoustic search ability detect actually running, there he goes, now he's actually concealed within his smoke, or trying to be. If I can close to within 5 kilometers of his ship while he is within the smoke screen, the hydroacoustic search consumable will pick him up, and he will basically be stuck in close quarters to a light cruiser with basically nothing that he can do, aside from maybe dropping torpedoes if he's positioned well enough. Though we're kind of going to bypass that right at the moment, unless he really wants to try and clip me with maybe just one torpedo. And yet, yep, there he is on the outskirts of my hydro range. And of course I did pop off a shot so that he could have me detected. Hooly, go ahead and just drop torpedoes where maybe the only one of those torpedoes is going to clip my bow on me. Yeah, just a little too short. Go ahead and try that one more time. This time this time just I'm not moving. So again, just try to get like the outer edge to clip my bow. Oh crap. Okay, that might be a little too much. Alright, so I did take 3 torpedoes. Fortunately, I'm not dead, but you will notice that I am flooding. I am still taking damage from floods. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit R to engage my damage control party. That will stop any flooding. This will also work to put out any fires that anybody would happen to set on my ship. And the other thing I am going to do is hit my U key to use my repair party, and this will restore health to my ship as the battle progresses, and basically allows me to just kind of stay in the fight a little bit longer. Now, moving away from any consumables that I require any extensive amount of assistance with, I have now moved on to my Tier 9 USS Benham, and I am attempting to hunt down an enemy Shimakaze. Now, the Benham isn't exactly quick by some destroyer standards, but I can definitely bring her speed up quite a bit using my engine boost consumable. This increases her maximum surface speed by 8%, and now allows her to travel at a nice, brisk 41.2 knots. Now, there are some other ships that can definitely reach higher speeds with better engine boost consumables, but every little bit counts, and being able to move around the map very quickly, even with the engine boost consumable, is very good quality of many destroyers, some cruisers, and even a small handful of battleships. Now, I know that Shimakaze is hiding around here somewhere, or should be. Downside of choosing a ship, I guess, that has lower detection range than I do. Okay, so there's the Shimakaze. Holy crap. Let's say I didn't know he was there, and suddenly he's popped up 7 kilometers away from me, and damn is he close. Maybe a little too close for comfort. As a destroyer, what else can I do to kind of draw this, to suddenly disengage from this too close for comfort Shimakaze? Now, granted, I am on the edge of his detection range, and I can disengage simply by sailing away from him. In fact, I'm actually not even able to... He can't see me and I can't see him. But let's say... let's say something happened where I closed in... Maybe there was an island or something hiding in between me and him at some point or other along the way here. And just otherwise... I didn't have an incredible amount of warning that there was a Shimakaze closing in on me, or vice versa. So let me actually take a moment to get well within his detection range, or whatnot. Okay, so let's say maybe there was an island right here, whatever, and he pops around the corner at 4 kilometers. Holy shit, there's a Shimakaze. Okay, let's, I need to, I don't want to be spotted right now. In fact, I would very much like to get away from this Shimakaze, and I'm not going to be able to do it quickly enough to avoid his gunfire. But wait, I have smoke that I can deploy. Yes, I just hit the T key and deployed my smoke generator consumable. This, provided nobody else has line of sight on me, will allow me to hide from any ships that are either on the other side of the smoke screen or even within the smoke screen. As long as they are not within 2 kilometers, I am basically safe. And this allows me to just break visual contact so that they cannot shoot at me effectively. This will also allow me to, say, drop off torpedoes without being easily spotted, in hopes that maybe I could sink that Shimakaze before he got his eyes on me yet again. Now, the other thing to be wary of, however, is in random or ranked matches, players do know to recognize smoke screens for what they are. They are things that can spit torpedoes, and provided the ship within also has somebody else spotting for them, they will also be spitting shells out of their smoke screen. So be wary of the fact that if you use your smoke, they do tend to be torpedo magnets. And while you may not be visible if you are firing your main battery guns, you are also going to potentially draw enemies shooting at you, just trying to hit you with blind main battery fire. So there is that to keep in mind. Personally, for me in co-ops, as long as you smoke up and drop off detection, the enemy is not shooting at you, they don't try to torpedo you or blind fire you unless they had a firing solution prior to you smoking up. But otherwise, the smoke is a good tool for disengaging from the enemy and basically just basically saving your ass in a number of circumstances. Some ships have special versions of consumables available to them. For example, the Le Terrible here is a French destroyer, and the French destroyers have access to a special version of the engine boost that provides a 20% bonus to the maximum speed, and I think French battleships receive a 15% upgrade to their through their engine speed boost. Now, the Le Terrible does not have a smoke consumable, which does unfortunately make her a little bit vulnerable from a surface attack standpoint, but as soon as I find the Shimakaze again with my Le Terrible, I will definitely showcase her very special and or her very special and very much unique to the French ship's main battery reload booster. Okay, so there is the enemy Shimakaze. Finally found it again. And I didn't even run out my engine boost this time. But Shima's got a pretty good chunk of health on her, but the Le Terrible and the French destroyers, as well as some of the other French ships, specifically the high-tier French battleships and some of the French cruisers, have access to the main battery reload booster. Now, you'll notice Le Terrible's guns have a good long 4-second reload, even for a destroyer, and it can definitely be a bit of a nuisance in a close-in gunfight. But the main battery reload booster reduces the main battery reload time by 50 seconds. And let me tell you, this rate of fire can be very withering in a very short period of time. Suddenly that Shima, say this had been a player or even a live bot, suddenly that Shima would be very much regretting his life decisions for getting into a close quarters battle with a Le Terrible. Because that main battery reload booster can definitely mean the difference between life and death in some cases. Now, some ships, like the Harugumo here, have very limited torpedo systems. The Japanese destroyers generally apply in this regard. But the Harugumo specifically because she has only one torpedo launcher, and those torpedoes really do have kind of a very long reload. 157 seconds. That's like almost 2.5 minutes. And this Bismarck, let's say I drop my torps, but I know it's not the greatest drop. I'm not going to want to wait 2.5 minutes for my torpedoes to reload. But the Harugumo has the torpedo reload booster, which very rapidly reloads the torpedoes so that I can get off a second set in rapid succession and finish off my target. Some ships do have this. This is primarily on the Japanese destroyers, however. And I do think a couple of other token premium cruisers and destroyers. Now, a couple of other consumables that you have on some ships. For example, the Hindenburg here, I do have a spotting aircraft. Now, these are aircraft that will go up and will allow you to spot targets that may not necessarily be close enough for you to see, or maybe on the other side of an island from you. And that is helpful if, say, you don't have like hydroacoustic search or radio position finding, anything like that. And what it does is it increases your main battery range on top of giving you a rather top-down perspective on your target. For example, if I pop my spotting aircraft, one, I can see over islands a little bit better, for one thing, and also my main battery range in the Hindenburg is now pushed out to 21.27 kilometers, as opposed to its baseline of, let's see, 17 kilometers, was it? Yeah, to its baseline of 17-ish kilometers. And again, it just gives you a better perspective on your target at longer range to be able to see over things. Even for shorter ranges, it's good because it does still alter your perspective also in the short range. Something else that I'm using the Hindenburg for is to showcase the defensive AA consumable, which once used does dramatic extra damage to enemy aircraft. I mean, you can see I very quickly shredded this Hakuryu's aircraft once I decided to use my consumable. And what it does is it simply increases the efficiency of the AA. Damage per second was increased along with the as long as, yeah. All it does is improve the efficiency and the damage per second within the flak bursts, as well as a little bit of an increase to the actual continuous DPS of all your regular main battery guns. And it can definitely be nice for dealing with a aircraft carrier that's just being a close-in pest. Unfortunately, it does not cool off particularly quickly, so you do still have to deal with aircraft to some extent otherwise. Like me in this case, just opting to go for the priority sector to just deal a good chunk of damage right out the window. But once I do have another good shot, I am going to pull off the DFAA again, just so that you can see it active. In the meantime, I am going to dodge some of these aircraft just for grins, so that the aircraft carrier does have a chance to harass me just a little bit more, and otherwise let it restore some of its aircraft. Okay, here come the torpedo bombers again. And let's give them hell. DFAA out. And just look at how much damage is done in a very short period of time to these aircraft. That entire squadron literally just obliterated in the amount of time it took for the aircraft carrier to do a single attack run. So it's definitely a nice consumable to have available to you, and I definitely recommend using it, especially if you expect to be running into aircraft carriers on a regular basis. That rocket squadron had absolutely no chance. The final consumable that bears mentioning is actually the fighter consumable. This is a consumable that can be mounted usually only on cruisers or battleships, and even then only select ones. And this works very similar to the DFAA, except what it does instead is it scrambles a fighter squadron to deal with enemy aircraft. And basically they will simply scramble up into the air and go after any aerial targets that happen to be in the vicinity and do its best to shoot them down, up to and including any fighters that the enemy squadron happens to deploy. But they will prioritize any damage-dealing targets that the enemy has airborne. So this includes dive bombers, torpedo bombers, and rocket attack aircraft. It will not give a whole lot of priority, apparently, to enemy fighters, but the enemy fighters really aren't present for an incredible amount of time. I'm just kind of gonna let this reload so that I can show the fighters one more time. If I have to, I'll also deploy fighters to do something about enemy fighter, or sorry, pop off my AA to do something about enemy fighters so that my fighters really only have to deal with enemy aircraft as far as the attack aircraft instead of being shot down by other fighters. Yeah, I think I am going to let this midway just attack me once, just so that it can drop its fighter squadron. Potentially drop its fighter squadron. Alright, just, that's it, I'm just putting fighters up. Come what may. And I may as well pop DFAA as well. Or not. Yeah, see, my fighters just kind of charge in and do what they can to the enemy fighters, but enemy fighters also did a good job of shooting down my aircraft. So unfortunately I can't really showcase it too well against bots, go figure. But the simple fact remains that they will engage enemy aircraft and do what they can to shoot down any threats to your ship. At least aerial threats. Looking at all of this from the port view, you can see your consumable spread for just about any ship that you have in port, as long as you're looking at your ammo and consumable selection. You do have premium and regular versions. Basically, the premium versions simply have better... They don't necessarily have better action times, but they do have better cooldown times, and you do get one more charge than your base free consumable. So, for example, if I'm looking at my Abruzzi here, hydroacoustic search, I get 3 charges and they reload in 180 seconds versus the premium or the hydroacoustic search 2, which gets 4 charges, but it reloads in 120 seconds. So the premium is at least a nice improvement over the free version, but if you're, say, low on credits, you can definitely go for the free version, and it is still going to be effective, just you won't have it as frequently. And, of course, you can also look at the parameters of your reload modules, or your consumables here, just to see how they perform. For example, on the Abruzzi at tier 7, she picks up torpedoes at 3 kilometers and ships at 4 kilometers. If I compare this to, say, the Hindenburg with the hydroacoustic search module at tier 10, she picks up ships at 6 kilometers and torpedoes at 4 kilometers. So the other thing to keep in mind in some cases is that not all consumables are created equal. Some ships do have consumables that operate at different ranges or for different durations. Another case in point on this would be comparing, say, destroyers. If I look at the smoke generators for certain destroyer classes. For example, the Harugumo has a smoke charge that acts for 20 seconds and it dissipates in a little over a minute and a half. By comparison, a US smoke charge, and this is down up for the tier 9, it is active 10 seconds longer for the base consumable, so it's putting out smoke for 10 seconds longer, and the smoke screen sticks around longer. In this case, it's 127 seconds. That's just over 2 minutes. So that is something else to keep in mind. I also mentioned the engine boosts earlier. For most destroyers, it is a 8% engine boost. However, French destroyers get a unique version at 20% on top of their main speed. And also, French battleships, I might add, have a speed boost as well that enhances their speed. Well, okay, 8%. But the French, I believe it is the French cruisers, actually. Oh, come on, where are they? Yep, there they are. The French cruisers get a 15% speed boost. So you do have to keep in mind that class can affect your consumables to some extent. I know there are some classes of destroyers that have the defensive AA. I'm looking primarily at the US destroyers, but their DFAA consumables are not effective in quite the same range as the defensive consumables on other ships like cruisers. And you don't normally see battleships with exception of the Hood with defensive AA. So there are some consumables that are also restricted to certain classes of ships. For the longest time, speed boost was only applicable to destroyers. It wasn't until the French line came along that you saw speed boost on battleships and cruisers, but that is a specifically French trait. You do not see the engine boost on cruisers or battleships outside of the French tech line. There are other modules that you don't see outside of other lines as well. For example, you don't normally see the torpedo reload booster outside of the Japanese destroyer line, excluding a small handful of premium ships. There are also some ships that get unique versions of the smoke generator. For example, the HMS Perth at, I think it's tier 5? Oh, I know you're out there somewhere. Come on. Commonwealth. There we go. HMS Perth. Tier 6, sorry. Does have its smoke consumable, but it is a little bit different. It is what's referred to as a crawler smoke generator. This one has a short dispersion time, but a long action time. This allows you to move around the map at low speed, admittedly, but it does still allow you to move for up to 117 seconds, largely undetected, but again, the smoke does not stick around for very long. It's only 9.5 seconds per circle of smoke that is put out. But this, again, does allow you to move while remaining undetected to a certain extent. You can also still sit stationary within your smoke cloud, but depending on your battle mode, that's not necessarily recommended. This crawler smoke is also, I believe, a trait of the Pan-Asian destroyers. Another thing to mention is that consumables for, say, your aircraft carriers are largely automated, especially the ones specifically for your hull directly. The hull has automatic fighters and automatic damage control, and you cannot switch those for manual. The other thing for aircraft carriers that you will see is consumables that affect aircraft performance directly. That is primarily an engine cooling, which basically allows your aircraft engines to both cool down and operate for longer at maximum performance, or basically max or minimum speed. You can also deploy fighters for a short period of time to, say, take out enemy aircraft squadrons, or basically just cover your own fighters, your own bomber squadrons. And the torpedo bombers specifically get a repair consumable for the aircraft. But beyond that, there's really nothing overly unique about the aircraft carrier consumables, aside from those that affect the aircraft directly. Anyway, that just about does it for the consumables tutorial. And just keep in mind that if you want to know how your consumables are going to perform for you, definitely look at your ships in port. And also keep in mind that there are some ships that will have multiple different consumables that they can put into a spot. So you have to kind of keep in mind what you want to have your ship perform as over the course of a match. Anyway, on that note, I suppose I shall go ahead and let everybody go. I hope you all enjoyed the video and found it informative, and I hope to catch you all again next time. Have a good one. Happy hunting, folks.